What's going on, everyone? This is Aaron from Departures Capital, and welcome to Mindmed's earnings call live. So I'm not going to be doing a live stream on Friday because I'm actually taking the day off, but today we can talk all about Mindmed. Stock's been performing really great over the last 2 days, and it's nice to see it coming back. And I'm excited to see what JR has to say, which will be in 14 minutes. So hope you guys are doing well. Also, this is on Departures Capital, but this is a completely unsponsored video for anyone who's wondering. Just wanted to state that. So I'll get to comments in just 2 seconds. Let's see here. So looks like it's going to be a Zoom meeting. From my inbox, that's what it says. So we can open this up in 2 seconds. I just want to pull up comments. Mindmed's up another 7.4% today, which is pretty awesome. It's almost 30% over the last 2 days. Okay, I'm going to log in as Departure Stocks. And we'll see what's up, guys. So, of course, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe. Better not be April Fool's joke. Nope. Let's rock. How's everybody doing? I'm finally in the chat. What's up, Andrew? So I don't know if you guys can see this. Okay, yeah, you can see this, but I don't know if I should open this now or closer to. We'll see what happens. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's space. Okay, good. You can see that. The webinar will begin soon, start 10 a.m. It's pretty cool how they're doing a Zoom earnings call. What's up, Darren? Thanks for tuning in, guys. Let's take a look now at a few different things. We'll just move this a little bit. There we go. Maybe you can't see whatever. I'm sure it will work, but it basically says, please wait, the webinar will begin soon. Start 10 a.m. Let's take a look at a few things. How's the psychedelic sector doing in general? So Mindmed is clearly leading again, up 8.5% to 380. Compass is up 3%. A blessed day to be Mindmed sub for life. Hoping for good news on uplisting. That being even if they don't say anything. So yeah, guys. So far, so good. Almost 30% in 2 days. Oh, I need to post this on Reddit. Sorry, guys. Let's post this on Reddit. Just do a quick little post here. Maybe I'll do it from my phone, actually. How's the sound? Does it sound good now? Maybe I can get some more Mindmed merch. One sec, I gotta share this link on Reddit. Let's see here. Ten minutes. Link. Call, what should we say? Earning call live. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, I'm not as active on Reddit. I mean, it's a big community, but Got love for Reddit, of course. Um, but I try not to get too involved. It can be a an interesting place. I wonder if we can hit $4 today. Already already 383. That's pretty awesome. Brett Mace watching from Vietnam. What's up, buddy? How's Vietnam? It's been a while since we talked. I've been to Vietnam once, Ho Chi Minh City for 3 days. I had to try the real pho. Yeah, exactly. It's the best and the worst place. I'm not getting a Mindmed tattoo. We want Nasdaq. We want Nasdaq. 385, 10%. That's awesome. 8 minutes. I hope this Zoom link, the input works correctly. Once it starts, you guys will have to let me know. Love Vietnamese street food. Yeah, I love the street food in general. Asia's awesome for street food. 389. 386. Amish Capital has a Mindmed sleeve tattoo. No, that's dedication. Guys, I'm so happy today. My entire portfolio is in the green starting off this morning. I'm happy I could bring you guys some good news, or at least talk about it, because it's been hasn't been it's been a tough week. We'll just say that it's been a tough couple weeks. It's just so funny how yesterday, they had that good news, and the market was actually green too. It's like the timing was impeccable so far. So far, so good. I don't know what's up with this chart though. We gotta fix this. This is completely wrong. Okay, let's see here. Wow. Volume today is just awesome. Let's go, $4. Definitely some awesome volume already. 620K. Moon confirmed today. I mean, we'll see what JR says in 6 minutes. Oh shoot, what happened here? $4, no problem. Hope so. It's just crazy to think that it was in the twos. Like, I mean, that's just the market we were in, but one thing I was thinking is we may see this, slow climb, like not slow. Well, it hasn't been that slow, but this steady climb up until the Nasdaq, with people anticipating that. Obviously, we need to get the announcement first. I don't count my chickens before they hatch, but it's pretty obvious that people are pretty excited based on the stock price and how it's performed the last 2 days. So that's pretty sweet. 5 minutes, guys. All the way up Chico level 2. A lot of people are getting left behind. Mindmed was so oversold in the RSI. It's been a long time since we talked, but don't worry, I'm still watching your videos. Thanks. So cheap. Ooh, good morning. If our average is 317 currently, would you suggest to buy more now or wait for this call? Is it too early to take a beer? Alexander, it's Thursday. technically it's Friday, so I don't think it's too early at all. Zachariah, I'll never tell you to buy or sell. I'll never give financial advice, but I mean, at this point, I'm holding. Like, I personally think Mindmed has a long way to go. 9 p.m. there in Ho Chi Minh City. Awesome. That's exactly where I went. It's 5 p.m. somewhere. And don't worry, guys, I'll mute the mic once the earnings call starts. Don't worry, CG. We not losing focus. Wow. Mindmed goes to 20 billion. I'd be very happy. Two minutes, and then I will shut off the microphone and listen in with you guys. As long as Zoom links to the stream. Let's take a look and see what the other psychedelic stocks are doing. Yeah, Numinous is doing pretty good today, finally. We're actually seeing Midas in the red, though. It's pretty clear that Mindmed is leading right now. Thank you, Esteban. That would be amazing if you could actually get Fortuna. I sent them a message. They didn't get back to me. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. I wasn't too sure about streaming it. And I didn't know if there was going to be people in this stream that, you know, we're all upset because it dropped. But I guess on a green day, 2 green days in a row, people are going to be happier. So, of course, don't forget to smash the like button. I appreciate it, guys. If you want to help out this stream, smash the like button. Also, I want to play a fun game. I used to play this game when I live streamed ACB's earnings. Not to jinx anything, I don't want to compare the two, but drop me a comment below and let me know whereabouts in the world you're tuning in from. I just think it's cool because it's so international. Let me know where you guys are right now and what your plans are for the long weekend. My pleasure, guys. I think CloudMD is an interesting one to take a look at. Yeah, like with these lockdowns returning and all of that kind of stuff, and the valuation looks pretty good. Of course, always do your own research and due diligence. It's not financial advice, but Hamilton, Ontario, New York City. Join the Zoom call. It says, please wait. The webinar will begin shortly, starting at 10 a.m. Mindmed 2020 earnings call. It still says waiting. Montreal, Calgary, Winnipeg, Netherlands, Montreal. It's snowing. T-Dot, Ottawa, Prescott, Ontario. Northwest Canada. Houston, Texas, the 6th. Vegas, baby. St. Jacobs, Montreal. They must be late. I can try clicking this again. What's going on here? Fort St. John, BC, Frankfurt, Germany, Kildare, Ireland. Okay, let's try this again. There we go.
Good morning and welcome to Mindmed's 2020 year-end earnings call.
Can you guys hear that?
Vice President of Corporate Development for Mindmed. I will be coordinating today. Mindmed CEO J.R. Ron. Please email any questions you may have to investors@mindmed.co.
Hold on a second,
These will be
guys.
addressed following the introduction. J.R., you may now begin the call.
Thank you, Colin. Good morning and welcome to Mindmed's 2020 year-end earnings call as we continue our mission to alleviate suffering and promote health. I am J.R. Ron, the co-founder and CEO of Mindmed. We appreciate everyone taking the time to join our call today. I am also joined today by our Executive President, Dr. Mary Halpin-Wormley, Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Dan Carlin, and our Chief Development Officer, Robert Farrow, and lastly, our Chief Financial Officer, David Burke. As always, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that this conference call will contain forward-looking information, which may include but is not limited to statements with respect to anticipated business plans or strategies of Mindmed. Forward-looking statements are made as of today's date and involve known and unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors which may cause the actual results, performance, or achievements of Mindmed to be materially different from the forward-looking statements. We draw your attention to the full disclaimer contained in our filings on SEDAR and EDGAR. We have scheduled a maximum of 1 hour for this call. We think it's important to stress our attention to clinical trial safety in the face of COVID-19. As the vaccines continue to roll out globally, we maintain increased safety measures at our trial sites. While there is no immediate impact directly to our ongoing clinical trials with subjects and our partners, we continue to monitor the dynamic situation of COVID-19. We have seen some minor complications to the logistics of our supply chain and manufacturing capabilities due to increased travel restrictions and import and export regulations imposed during COVID-19 that many biotech companies are currently experiencing. Internally, the company has continued to benefit from our geographically distributed operational structure with the recent team member additions of Robert Barrow, Dr. Dan Carlin, Bradford Cross, and the entire 24-person team at Health Mode. The year of 2020 turned out to be a transformational time for Mindmed as we went through significant growth and maturation. We remain focused on our objective of building a comprehensive tool set for patients and therapists based on psychedelic substances. As always, we remain committed to our strategy of execution through rigorous science and preclinical and clinical trials. With this approach, we seek to transform once stigmatized compounds into medicines approved for marketing by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and equivalent foreign regulatory authorities. Our drug development programs will continue to be conducted in strict compliance with drug development, regulatory, and supervisory bodies such as the FDA and relevant national health care authorities. I will now go into detail on our advancements in 2020 and update you on the progress of our ongoing clinical trials, strategy, and overall operations. Team updates. We're extremely excited for the opportunity to hire top-tier talent to Mindmed. With that said, I'm honored to announce the addition of Rob Barrow. Rob has been appointed as Chief Development Officer. He has more than a decade of experience leading drug development programs aimed at identifying, testing novel treatments in a wide range of disease conditions under FDA and EMA regulations. In his most recent position, Rob served as Director of Drug Development and Discovery at the USONA Institute, where he oversaw preclinical, clinical, and regulatory development efforts for all USONA development programs in psychedelics. At USONA, he was responsible for launching the phase 2 clinical program for psilocybin in the treatment of major depressive disorder and for obtaining breakthrough therapy designation for the program from the FDA. In addition to Rob, we have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Dan Carlin and Bradford Cross to the team as Chief Medical Officer and Chief Technology Officer. Dr. Carlin previously held several leadership roles at Pfizer's Neuroscience Research Unit, ultimately serving as head of clinical informatics and regulatory strategy for digital medicine. He is board certified in psychiatry, addiction medicine, and clinical informatics. Both Dan and Bradford have added serious firepower to our ongoing digital medicine efforts. Bradford was a founding partner at a deep tech venture capital fund, Data Collective, also known as DCVC, in Silicon Valley, and also founded Prismatic, a personalized AI-driven newsfeed that became part of the IP underlying LinkedIn's newsfeed and content classification. I look forward to working with Bradford and his entire engineering team and product team as we chart new territory for the company and building a comprehensive mental health platform that we call Albert, ultimately to complement the drug development engine that we are also building at Mindmed. We recently announced just this week an update to our scientific advisory board. As we further bolster our scientific advisory board, we are excited to welcome the addition of Dr. Robert Malenka, an accomplished neuroscientist and psychiatry professor from Stanford University. Dr. Malenka is going to act as chair of our company's scientific advisory board. Dr. Malenka is an elected member of the National Academy of Sciences and the National Academy of Medicine, as well as an elected fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and the American College of Neuropsychopharmacology. He has served on the National Advisory Council on Drug Abuse and as a counselor for the Society for Neuroscience and the American College of Neuropsychopharmacology. He is well known for his landmark contributions to the understanding of brain plasticity mechanisms and has extensive experience as an advisor to various pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies. We are honored to have him join Mindmed as chair of the Scientific Advisory Board and begin working on new projects with Dr. Malenka. I will now address the health mode and our Albert division. As mentioned earlier, we are very fortunate to have integrated the entire health mode family from our recently announced acquisition of health mode. The acquisition will help Mindmed move towards building a full stack digital mental health platform for psychedelic medicines. With the acquisition, Mindmed gains access to health mode's intellectual property, platforms for drug trials, its entire 24-person digital medicine team. Mindmed will incorporate health mode's machine learning, engineering, product development, and operations employees based in Silicon Valley, New York City, Bratislava, and Prague into its established digital medicine division, Albert. Mindmed seeks to establish Albert as an industry-leading full-stack digital mental health platform capable of enabling the launch and commercialization of psychedelic-assisted therapies and medicines at scale for patients. Our mission is to make Mindmed as much a digital medicine company as a drug development company. We believe the future of modern mental health care and psychedelic medicine ultimately will rely on improving infrequent, self-reported, and observed measures for mental health to a paradigm where the continual digital measurement of our mind and body is as vital as the drug treatment itself. In effect, we see a future mental health treatment paradigm where potential drug products such as our LSD therapy might be prescribed alongside software application programming interfaces to prepare the patient for treatment, accompany the treatment, and optimally monitor the aftercare of one's anxiety disorder through our platform partners. I will now address the Nasdaq initial listing application. To begin, I want to discuss our Nasdaq initial listing application. As we previously announced, Mindmed has filed an initial listing application to list its subordinate voting shares on the Nasdaq capital market. The listing of such shares on Nasdaq is subject to Mindmed meeting the quantitative and qualitative requirements to list and remains subject to Nasdaq listing approval. Despite our continued desire to list our subordinate shares on the Nasdaq capital market, there can be no assurance that Mindmed's initial listing application will be approved. As publicly announced yesterday, a preliminary base shelf prospectus was filed in Canada on SEDAR, and a Form F-10 registration statement with the same preliminary base shelf prospectus was filed in the United States with the SEC on EDGAR. I will now move to advancements in Basel, Switzerland, the birthplace of LSD and modern psychedelic science. Mindmed is excited to continue its relationship with the Liechti Lab at University Hospital Basel. UHB has achieved a leading position in the academic and scientific realm with LSD, MDMA, and other psychedelic research. Our strategy remains the same: translate the clinical and research work done by UHB and its leadership position into commercial drug trials conducted in compliance with FDA requirements and the requirements of other regulatory agencies. We are already doing this with Project Lucy and aim to do this with additional programs. Project Lucy remains one of our lead commercial drug development programs for the treatment of anxiety disorders with LSD. Mindmed is on schedule to initiate a phase 2b human safety and efficacy trial that will focus on treating anxiety with our LSD product candidate, administered in specific therapeutic settings, subject to the FDA accepting our IND. Mindmed's clinical and regulatory team has completed a pre-IND briefing package and submitted it to the FDA and met with the FDA for a pre-IND meeting in December 2020. Data from a recently completed phase 1 dose range finding study by the LEAD lab, together with multiple other studies conducted both in healthy volunteers and subjects over the past 10 years, has helped define the protocol proposed to the FDA for the phase 2b clinical trial. Following the pre-IND meeting with the FDA, Mindmed's team is now working to submit an IND for the treatment of an anxiety disorder in Q3 of this year. Our FDA regulatory efforts and our clinical strategy for LSD are being led by Dr. Halpern Warnley and Robert Barrow. Project Flow. Our Project Flow is our phase 2A study evaluating microdosing of LSD for treating adult ADHD. We have successfully reached an agreement on the study protocol with both the Swiss and Dutch health authorities for both sites where the study will be run. To our knowledge, this is the first green light of a protocol from a regulatory agency to proceed with a commercial clinical trial testing the efficacy of LSD microdosing. Mindmed is diligently working to prepare the GMP medication for the study, and our site coordinators are focusing on subject recruitment strategies to optimize the execution of the study. We anticipate dosing to begin in subjects in Q3 at both of our sites in Switzerland and the Netherlands. Our LSD MDMA study. Moving to the further R&D clinical updates, we were excited to announce the clinical trial measuring and evaluating MDMA and LSD used in combination of the human body. The trial has started and is being conducted at the University Hospital Basel, LICTI Lab in Basel, Switzerland. Combined MDMA LSD treatments have the potential to create next generation psychedelic assisted therapy paradigms. When added to a psychedelic assisted therapy session, MDMA has the potential to reduce some known rare negative side effects that may occur while using LSD or other classic psychedelics on their own. In regards to our LSD neutralizer study, we were excited to announce the start of a study to better understand the effect and potential use of potassium, a substance intended to shorten and stop an LSD trip during a therapy session. This discovery, when further developed and if approved, may act as an emergency off switch for psychedelic assisted therapies. Specifically, Mindmed is working in collaboration with UHB's LEAD Lab on the phase 1 double-blind, placebo-controlled, random order 2-period crossover design clinical trial evaluating the effect of potassium on the acute response to LSD in healthy subjects after LSD administration. The study is being conducted at the University Hospital Basel LICTI Lab and is expected to be completed by year end. As a result of focusing on LSD-assisted therapies, Mindmed hopes to innovate additional features that can make its product candidates most suitable for a therapeutic setting and thereby create the best possible patient journey and experience. Turning now to our partnership with Mindshift Compounds in Switzerland. Mindmed has recently bolstered its new drug discovery efforts with the announcement of a new partnership with Swiss startup pharmaceutical company Mindshift Compounds AG. Mindmed plans to develop and patent next-gen psychedelic compounds with psychedelic or empathogenic properties. As part of this partnership, Mindmed and Mindshift Compounds plans to develop next-gen psychedelic and empathogenic substances together. The first initial compounds have already been synthesized by Mindshift Compounds AG, and related patent applications were filed by Mindmed. Mindmed plans to begin first in human phase 1 clinical trials as early as Q1 2022 through its existing clinical trial platform for psychedelic and empathogenic compounds in Switzerland. We will use this platform to build further IP. R&D collaborations on psilocybin. On a similar note, Mindmed has been conducting R&D work on psilocybin in collaboration with University Hospital Basel's Liechti Lab. An ongoing study is comparing and contrasting the altered states of consciousness induced by psilocybin and LSD. Mindmed is interested in understanding how psilocybin or LSD affects humans differently so it can design better late-stage trials or potentially combine substances in next-generation psychedelic-assisted therapies. I will now discuss our phase 1 study that completed relating to dosing effects of LSD. Data from a recently completed phase 1 dose range finding study by the Liechti Lab helped inform the protocol design and the dosing regimen proposed to the FDA for our potential phase 2B clinical trial. As previously announced and published in collaboration with UHB Liechti Lab, we found that a dose of 200 micrograms of LSD was shown to induce a greater ego dissolution than a lesser 100 microgram dose. Ego dissolution is thought to be one of the key therapeutic potentials of the psychedelic experience and psychedelic-assisted therapy process. This study will help to further inform later stage trials that Mindmed is undertaking. We now turn to our LSD study in the Netherlands, LSD microdosing. On January 12, 2021, the corporation announced an LSD study evaluating the potential benefits of LSD microdosing, in addition to our ongoing commercial drug trial that is beginning for adult ADHD. Specifically, this second study will be a randomized placebo-controlled study evaluating the effects of daytime and evening administration of low doses of LSD on cognitive performance, sleep quality, mood, neuroplasticity markers, emotion regulation, quality of life, and immune system response. The study will provide an additional research pathway for Mindmed's psychedelic microdosing division and will immediately integrate with Mindmed's plans in digital therapeutics through its newly formed Albert Unit for Digital Medicine. Mindmed is integrating innovative digital tracking devices and software into the study to better assess LSD's effects on various clinical markers on the human body. The new study will be conducted in collaboration with Dr. Kim Koopers of Nasdaq University in the Netherlands, a global leading authority on the microdosing of psychedelics. 18MC. Mindmed continues to make progress in advancing our addiction medicine program. Our lead addiction medicine candidate, 18MC, is a synthetic analog of the natural psychedelic substance ibogaine. Extensive testing in animal models of substance use disorders suggests efficacy similar to ibogaine. Additionally, preclinical data on 18MC suggests a mitigation of key safety risks associated with ibogaine. Most notably, 18MC does not appear to have proarrhythmic or neurotoxic effects, which supported selection as a lead drug candidate and could potentially safer alternative to ibogaine. Mindmed is developing 18MC as a treatment for substance use disorders and withdrawal with a novel mechanism of action. Unlike available treatments which center around therapies that activate and or block the opioid receptor, 18MC acts by addressing the dysregulation of dopamine in the reward pleasure centers of the midbrain, which are a hallmark of substance use disorders and central to many addictive behaviors. Under its open IND application for 18MC, Mindmed plans to initiate a phase 2 clinical trial of 18MC in the treatment of opioid withdrawal as a key indicator of the clinical activity in the fourth quarter of 2021 or later, subject to completion of the ongoing phase 1 single and multiple ascending dose trial. I'd like now to transfer the call to Dave Geber, our CFO, to give us an overview of the financials.
Thanks, JR. Our financial statements for the year end December 31st, 2020 were audited by RSM Canada LLP and have been approved by our audit committee and our board of directors. The complete financial statements, along with related management discussion and analysis, can be found in the System for Electronic Document Analysis and Retrieval, the electronic filing system for disclosure documents of issuers across Canada at www.cedar.com. I'll provide a brief summary of our year-end financial statements. As a reminder, all figures are expressed in US dollars. Mindmed continues to build its operating capabilities and to expand its clinical research and development activities. Our net and comprehensive loss for the year ended December 31st was 35.1 million, made up primarily of research and development costs of 15.4 million, general and administrative expenses of 7.7 million, and non-cash items, including share-based compensation of 8.8 million and loss and revaluation of the derivative liability of 0.9 million. Research and development expenses for the year were comprised of payroll and consulting fees of 3.2 million, costs to acquire data and studies of 2.8 million, clinical research and regulatory costs of 4.1 million, and manufacturing related costs of 3.8 million, and license fees of 700,000. There were other R&D costs of 739,000 as well. Research and development activities include all direct and indirect costs for programs, compensation, licensing fees for intellectual property, as well as manufacturing, clinical, and regulatory costs. General and administrative expenses for the 2020 year consisted of payroll and consulting fees of 2.7 million, marketing and investor relations of 2.4 million, legal fees of 814,000, accounting and audit of 301,000, and 1.5 million in other G&A. Turning to our balance sheet, our cash balance was 80.1 million and working capital was 78.7 million at December 31st. The net proceeds from our financing activities during the 12 months ended December 31st was $97.4 million. And cash used in operating activities after removing non-cash items from the net loss was 24.2 million for that period. With that, I'll turn the presentation back to JR.
Thanks, Dave. That completes the formal part of the presentation. Miri, Rob, Dan, and I will now address questions from our recently measured 180,000 independent shareholders and equity analysts covering Mindmed. Our first question comes from Tanya Gonzalez from Canaccord Genuity. She asks, could you provide more color on the elevated plasma levels of 18MC you've witnessed in phase 1 trials? Were there any AEs associated with this, and what does it mean for future trial design and dosing? I'm going to turn this over to our Chief Development Officer, Rob Barrow.
Thanks, JR, and thanks, Tanya, for the question. I just know that it's very common for human exposures to differ from animal exposures on a dose normalized basis, and this is just exactly what we've observed in our first human phase 1 studies of 18MC. While the relative exposures in humans are greater, we have not seen any dose-limiting adverse events in our clinical trials to date. It's a bit premature at this stage to discuss the full impact on future trial designs, but an increase in the dose normalized exposure in humans compared to animals could mean that we have to only administer lower doses in humans than we would in animals to achieve the same level of same plasma levels of 18MC.
Tanya, also the follow-up question directed to Dan. What kind of revenue will Health Mode contribute to Mindmed? Dan?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, JR, and thanks, Tanya. When Health Mode was acquired, we had a book of business to develop measures and conduct research with other sponsors in the space. Some of this revenue is continuing to date and will continue, but I think it's really important to say that the priority for our digital efforts and for the digital team is to focus on developing products that will enable the core research, development, and deployment activities of Mindmed. So functioning as the Albert division of Mindmed, the digital capabilities which were acquired through the HealthMed acquisition will still engage outside sponsors to collaborate and co-develop measurements and interventions, so long as those collaborations are strategically aligned with Mindmed's overall mission. Those collaborations themselves may be revenue generating, but it's really important to point out that near-term revenue is not the mission of the digital effort. In reality, what we are trying to do is advancing the science that enables us to build a technology platform that will play a key role in the core mission of Mindmed, which is, of course, developing and deploying psychedelic-inspired medications.
Okay. I'm going to take this question from Nicholas, who's emailed it and also asked it on Zoom here. So Nicholas asked, would you be able to talk about the infrastructure that Mindmed is going to build to scale these medicines? I think it's a really great question. And I think we're still going to take some time to totally answer what is going to be the needed infrastructure to deliver psychedelic medicines. I think the entire industry needs to answer that question. It's a seminal question. There are some out there that believe building clinics is the way forward. And I think as a management team, I think our view on, well, actually, I know our view on building out clinics across the United States as an example. We don't really believe that to be a scalable way to launch drugs, right? We don't believe that real estate is necessarily a scalable business model for a drug company, a drug development company. And so our focus really is going to be, how do we amalgamate the existing care system that does exist for mental health care? While limited, there are, I think something like 100,000 psychologists out there, 28,000 psychiatrists, and then of course therapists as well. And how do we ultimately get them to coalesce together to help us launch these potential medicines in the future after an approval? I think we have some time to figure that out, but not a whole lot of time. If we look at this, maybe 3-4 years maximum to build that infrastructure. I ultimately believe, coming from the technology industries, that the easiest way to amalgamate and get people to work together is through technology. And so I think we're going to focus on Albert as a platform to ultimately onboard therapists, psychiatrists, even maybe some MDs that can help us supervise these sessions. But ultimately, we need to get the FDA to weigh in some ways. But as Rob, our Chief Development Officer, always reminds me, the FDA doesn't necessarily regulate the delivery of medicine, right? So I think we're still determining how is the best way to build this infrastructure. What we do know is that the current solutions are just simply not working, right? They're not providing access to all communities here in America. And that's not good. Our objective as a company is not to make psilocybin available for those on Fifth Avenue. Our objective is to make this as wide a business as possible, so that as many people can access these medicines that actually need them. And by doing so, we actually probably will have a very, very much larger business than some of our competitors if we take that approach. And so as we build infrastructure, we want to make sure that that infrastructure is inclusive, because it's going to build a bigger business. So that will be our focus. And I look forward to working on this more with Dan and Bradford and the rest of the Health Mode team that's just joined us, and how we're going to build this comprehensive platform. And we're now working on that. And I look to come back in the next couple earnings call and show progress on what we are building, because I think it's important. And I don't think anyone else really in the space is necessarily thinking about how do you actually scale psychedelic medicines. Anybody can build a clinic. How do you actually scale it for millions of patients? That's what Mindmed is solving for. I'm going to move on here. And this one really is, I think, a good question from Miri, also from Nicholas Khalifi. Will you be posting a readout of your phase 2A LSD experiential dose results? Miri?
Yeah, thanks, JR. So this is the study which will end at the end of the year. So we looked at the study blinded, we get some information, but the study is running. It's a long study. It runs now since 3.5 years, and we will unblind and analyze only at the end of the year. But we used another 10 studies that were in UHB with LSD. One of them was mentioned by JR. It's those finding studies, very elaborate those finding studies. And we used this data and the analysis to guide us for the protocol that we presented for the 2B study with the FDA.
And Miri, while I have you, I have another question here. Have you started the LSD microdose and Albert trial yet? And if not, when should we anticipate news on this? I guess they're asking about the LSD microdosing.
Yeah, I think the two studies, our own 2A microdose study, the LSD microdose study, which is looking at adult ADHD, is planned to start in Q3, like we mentioned before, in the 2 European centers, and it's on time. The other study, the Maastricht University LSD study, which is an academic study, this one has now been submitted to ethics, and it's planned to start imminently. So it will start in the summer, probably June, July, or August. And this study will use digital measurements mainly for the sleep parameters, for slow wave sleep, sleep quality, quality and quantity, and also for a number of cognitive performance measures. This will be a first study where LSD will be given morning and evening as part of the parameters of the study. So we will, the digital measurements that we will be using, in fact, we decided on them prior to the health mode acquisition, but now they align very nicely with the sort of data that we will analyze, digitally analyze for this study. So this study will be the first one using digital measurements. And like I said, it's submitted to ethics, so it will start imminently.
Okay, this is, I think, this isn't really specific to Mindmed, but this is a question about microdosing, and I think this is a good question for Rob to tackle. There was an article recently that showed LSD microdosing was a placebo effect. This study was not ideal and had many flaws. Can you respond to how your study is better and what data do you expect? Rob?
Yeah, thanks, JR. So the recent study that was published on microdosing of psychedelics, we find that to be particularly interesting, and we always encourage the conduct of these studies that reach out to large populations and kind of interesting approaches. That said, the reference study was really fraught with limitations, make it really hard to generalize or interpret in the context of drug development program. At the highest level, the study was conducted in healthy individuals from the general population who were currently microdosing of their own accord, and it was not focusing on improving any conditions or disorders or disease. It was actually looking at improvements, making healthy people healthier. We know from a large body of literature that it's a very difficult thing to demonstrate, and it's really no surprise that you wouldn't see a large separation between a placebo and any kind of treatment in that kind of paradigm. Just to be clear, we are developing therapeutics for the treatment of mental health disorders, not to improve psychological well-being in healthy individuals. More specifically about the study, there are some particular weaknesses in terms of blinding procedures, in terms of the interpretation of the data from our perspective. And it's really difficult for us to draw scientific conclusions from that work. Again, we are very, very happy to see all of this work, the explosion of academic interest in studying psychedelics, including microdosing, but we don't see, we don't interpret the results the same way. We do not believe that they speak at all to the potential for LSD or other psychedelics to have a clinical benefit when dosed at low levels repeatedly. And we are excited to continue with our studies to actually assess those impacts in these populations.
So there's a question here from Louis Martucci, and he asks, soliciting or rendering Mindmed goods and services through means of current modern technology is the direction I want to see this company go. Can you please explain how and when this will be implemented? Dan, maybe you can talk a little bit more to this as how we're thinking about it.
Sure, and thanks for the question, Louis. So we agree with you. Modern digital technology is absolutely essential to the future of the deployment and development of psychedelics. At this point, our technology work is focused on building the platform to enable our core research and development aspects of the business, because these are the critical path steps to bring the products to market, right? As Rob has talked about with regulatory pathways, we have to go to bring new medicines to the market and to get those full regulatory approvals. In parallel, as we anticipate the regulatory approvals, the focus of the digital platform efforts will increasingly shift to technology that can enable the deployment of the medicines by facilitating a number of patient-related factors, including patient engagement, measurement and categorization of symptoms and diagnoses, assistance in monitoring medication adherence and medication dosing sessions, and monitoring patients in the follow-up after a session. those measurements could assist in detecting relapse so that patients can be assisted in staying well rather than suffering the sorts of cyclical setbacks that we see in folks with anxiety and depression. So we really prefer to be able to identify when people are starting to slide back into illness and prevent that backsliding rather than reacting to it. The key component of this enabling technology is that the more that it gets used, the more data passes through the model. And as those models see more and more patients, more data, more cycles of treatment and response, the models themselves, technology itself becomes increasingly powerful. And the models then are better able to detect and predict clinical outcomes, and ultimately will be able to inform sorts of interventions that we might pick for an individual based on the characteristics we identify about them. So we see that this deployment technology and our pushing that out into the marketplace should precede our clinical approvals for drugs, but will more or less follow the time course for deployment of drugs over time.
Thanks, Dan. There's a few questions here about Nasdaq. So Josh Goldman asking, what time frame does the Mindmed management expect the Nasdaq uplisting to be approved for Mindmed to begin trading on Nasdaq? Look, we encourage you to review our publicly disclosed statements. That's all that we can discuss at this time. We know that everybody wants to answer this question. Please see the publicly disclosed statements. Thank you. I think we've covered most of the themes here in the question. I'm just looking if there's anything left. I think we've got everything. So we thank you all for your dedication to the company. There's a very strong tribe here supporting Mindmed. It's a very impassioned shareholder base, and we really value that. We have to do the work at the FDA, and we have to build a technical infrastructure. But at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we're fighting against something that is hurting everyone globally. Mental health and addiction, continue to pervade society, and unfortunately, after COVID-19, I think it's going to get worse. I don't see it getting better. And so, companies like ours, I believe, are going to be very, very important. And so we thank everyone for their support, and we're going to continue on our mission. We are not going to solve these problems overnight. It's going to take time. But I think if we stay focused, we will hopefully prevail. And so thank you all, and have a good spring. The tide seems to be turning out there. So let's hope it turns into a good summer too. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, that's it, guys. So it's pretty obvious that this point right here was when the Nasdaq was discussed, and we'll just say, I'm not going to say anything, but there's obviously people anticipating something. I think JR did a good job. We'll just leave it at that. So I'm going to stay on for another couple minutes. I mean, I'm still along. This is super week. Great to be on the moment. I don't know what you guys are expecting. The end of life of JR. Hey, JR. Yeah, exactly. Day in the life of JR. Everyone asks him every 2 seconds. When's it happening? Same as everybody. Just waiting on the Nasdaq. Clinical trials look good. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, we'll see where the stock ends up today. But like I said, it was pretty obvious. A lot of people waiting. I don't know what they were waiting for. Watch my video on Departure's stocks about their recent news. It explains the whole thing, all the different forms they filed, the F10, what that means. You can just head on over to my other channel called Departure Stocks. Watch the video. It says, will Mindmed uplist to the Nasdaq soon? Will it? So anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And the stock is down 1% now, 4 cents. And we will see where we close the day at. So finally, last but not least, on your way out, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to both channels. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And I will do my best to provide more and more coverage on Mindmed as it comes.